3 days after baby girl's disappearance, man traces dog's path to neighbor's trash can. When he flipped open the trash can, he came across between his neighbor's house and his own. Connor could never have been ready for what he would find inside. There was nothing more disgusting and devastating that he could think of. He didn't hesitate to call the police. He had no other option. What their investigation revealed would plague Connor for every moment of his life. For Connor Bailey, it had started out as a normal day. He got up at the crack of dawn every day to take his dog Milo for his morning walk. The lively Jack Russell loved nothing more than the walks they took together. But it was on one such walk that Connor would stumble upon something truly horrific. As the two companions strolled around the streets near their home, Milo suddenly started yanking on his leash. Connor struggled to tug him backward. It was obvious that something had captured the pup's attention. They continued their walk, but Milo kept up his efforts. He sniffed the ground wildly every few steps. Connor had no clue that his canine sidekick was going to make an entirely unpredictable discovery. On certain days, Connor let Milo out into the front yard of their home. The dog was overjoyed to roll around wildly on the lawn and dig frantically in the dirt. But today, the Jack Russell was propped up on his hind legs, peering over the low wall between Connor's property and his neighbor Joe's garden. Milo stayed in the same spot for hours, his attention obviously zoned in on something. This behavior carried on day after day. Each morning, after their walk through the neighborhood, Milo would head straight to the front yard. The moment he got outside, he raced back to the wall, stood up against it, and watched intently. He barked nonstop, too, constantly distracting Connor from his work. What was the dog barking about? Connor started observing his dog's everyday routine. He was endlessly confused by Milo's post-walk antics. He couldn't imagine what he was seeing on the other side of the wall. However, he eventually decided to check it out for himself. Milo resumed his barking, but Connor didn't see anything that stood out to him. He didn't see what Milo saw. Connor grew increasingly puzzled as the days passed. He couldn't just dismiss how strong Milo's reaction was to whatever he had spotted over the wall. After a whole day of his dog's incessant barking driving him up the wall, Connor resolved to figure out the reason for it that evening. He walked out the door, torch in hand, ready to solve the puzzle of his dog's new obsession. Milo had been Connor's constant companion throughout the years he'd been living in Portland, Oregon. The duo had bounced between different apartments until the day Connor could finally scrape together enough to buy a cozy house in a serene neighborhood full of greenery. Being a serial bachelor, Connor appreciated having Milo at his side to keep him company. Normally a loyal, obedient, and well-trained pup, Milo's behavior had suddenly changed dramatically, doing whatever he wanted and ignoring the commands Connor gave. His obsession had grown with whatever was on the other side of the boundary wall, but it wasn't anything Connor could spot. All he saw was a couple of trash cans waiting on the sidewalk for the garbage truck to come by. So what could Milo be barking at on the other side? Connor couldn't see any signs of Joe, the neighbor next door, having gotten a new pet recently. It was normal for Milo to get wound up when he encountered other dogs, or any animal really. He was always intrigued by other creatures, so that was Connor's best guess for what had captivated him, but he was totally unaware that his dog was trying to communicate with him. When Milo's barking started escalating into loud howls, Connor started getting concerned. It wasn't a noise he'd ever heard from his dog before. It was now very obvious that there was something upsetting his canine sidekick. It was the middle of a dark, freezing night, yet Milo was perched on the porch, howling like a werewolf on the full moon. It cemented Connor's decision to pursue the matter properly. When Connor came outside, Milo jumped up right away, running directly to the garden wall. As per usual, he got up on his hind legs and commenced his barking. Then he turned back to look at his owner. Now, Connor was certain that Milo was trying to tell him something, to get him to look at something on the other side of the wall. He steeled himself in preparation for what he might find. Connor pushed his front gate open and walked out, Milo following on his heels. He directed his flashlight across his front yard and the sidewalk right in front of the house. But when he looked over to watch Milo, he saw the dog dashing in between the trash cans on the pavement. Connor realized something was off. Was this what was upsetting Milo? It was when he illuminated the area with the trash cans that Connor felt his stomach drop. He spotted a large bin carelessly parked on the pavement. It didn't seem to belong, and he had a bad feeling that something was wrong here. Fueled by his unease, Connor made his way over to the trash can and carefully lifted its lid. His discovery would permanently alter not only his world, but the whole community's. The strong odor nearly knocked Connor back as he moved the lid back. He nearly jumped back, his hand flying to cover his nose. In between the foul-smelling trash was an infant, sound asleep. His heart nearly stopped as alarm, terror, and distress flooded through him. His mind threatened to short-circuit as he tried to piece together how such a horrific thing could happen just outside his own home. At Connor's side, Milo was hopping up and down, almost like he was thanking his owner for finally listening to what he'd been trying to tell him. Connor started to hyperventilate, his heart racing. He had no idea what to do next. He wasn't even sure if the baby was still alive. It looked like it was just sleeping, but he knew he couldn't wait to find out. He needed to take action immediately. Not hesitating in the least, Connor called the emergency services to report the horrifying incident to the authorities. His voice was shaking as he tried to tell them what had happened. All the while, he was fighting to comprehend the calamity developing in front of him. He stood guard next to the trash can, his eyes frozen on the devastating picture in front of him. His eyes burned with tears as he lifted the infant, holding it close to his body. It was only minutes later that the dark silence of the night was interrupted by the bright lights and loud sirens marking the arrival of the police. They quickly took control of the crime scene, blocking off the sidewalk and launching their investigation. Connor trembled as he gave his statement, describing how Milo had directed him to the area with the trash cans. The officers' expressions were grave as they scrutinized the evidence, visibly determined to solve this tragic mystery. It didn't take long for the gruesome news of the heartbreaking incident to spread through the community. Horror and dismay overwhelmed the whole neighborhood as people grasped the gravity of the situation. The once peaceful suburb was turned upside down as neighbors congregated in the street, whispering to each other with tears in their eyes. No one could comprehend how an infant might end up among the garbage. Every single person wanted answers. While the authorities carried out their investigation, Connor was still preoccupied with anxiety and concern. What sort of person could do such a heinous thing? What kind of monster would leave a vulnerable baby to fend for itself like this? Connor could feel his heart growing heavier as he held the tiny girl close. He had wrapped her up snugly in a blanket from his house. He soothed her with whispered words, praying she'd wake up and burst into tears, just so he could be certain she was still alive. Milo loyally sat at Connor's feet the whole time, guarding the infant intently. It was like he knew what was at stake and had resolved to enforce the baby girl's safety. It seemed like time had frozen as Connor and the rest of his community nervously awaited any updates from the authorities. The infant had been taken to the hospital in a hurry, and they could only hope that she was all right. The neighborhood united as one, providing each other with support and coming together in an effort to comprehend the shocking incident that had disrupted their peaceful suburb. It was a devastating and painful reminder that no matter how safe a place might seem, danger could still creep in. Connor's thoughts didn't stray from trying to comprehend how an infant could find her way into the garbage on his own sidewalk without him noticing any signs. Connor was barely aware of what happened in the next few days. He lay awake late into the night, unable to stop reliving the incident in his mind. His thoughts were fixated on the picture of the vulnerable infant cradled by the garbage, far from the comfort she deserved. He stayed in close contact with police, anxious for updates on the baby's health and on any developments in the case, whether they had any clue who could act so reprehensibly. The uncertainty flamed his feelings of helplessness and despair. Connor then made it his mission to find leads on the culprit that abandoned the innocent child. He meticulously searched the nearby area, carefully scrutinizing the spot where the garbage had stood, hoping to spot something the police had missed. He interviewed his neighbors in hopes of finding someone who had witnessed something strange. As his investigation intensified, it dawned on him that the solution might be more obvious than he'd realized. He was watching back security footage one night when Connor spotted something odd. One particular camera, which monitored his front camera, had caught a dark figure lurking around the garbage cans during the time frame that the baby was abandoned. Connor's pulse sped up as he slowed the footage and watched it one frame at a time. The person appeared to purposefully stay out of the camera's line of sight, sticking to the edge of the visible frame. It was obvious that they had intentionally hidden their identity. Connor had never witnessed Milo's instincts lead him astray, so he knew that if his dog focused on something, it warranted further investigation. Keeping that in mind, he went back to the crime scene where he'd found the child. He followed Milo back to the garbage area, and that was when he spotted something with a recognizable odor, the scent that Milo had been obsessing over from the start. Connor knew that Milo could be key to helping him find the criminal, but at the same time, they needed to track down the infant's mother. The circumstances were devastating, no matter how he looked at it. He never could have imagined that he'd get caught up in a situation like this, and now he refused to let it go. But no amount of resolve could prepare him for what he would soon witness. A woman arrived at Connor's front door, inquiring about the baby he had discovered. Jane Thomas, a devastated mother, was frantically trying to find out what happened to her missing infant. She told a tale of heartache and terror with a shaky voice and tears streaming down her face. The local community immediately stood by her, doing all they could to offer support. The discovery that the child found in the garbage can was her lost daughter left everyone in disbelief. What had led to all of this? It took the police days of relentless work to solve the mystery. The forensics team meticulously investigated the bins for evidence. Detectives went door to door, asking residents detailed questions and reviewing their security footage. As they found out more, a horrific scene emerged. The investigators had discovered that the little girl was stolen away from her crib in the dark of the night, her mother sleeping deeply. The culprit was careful not to leave a trail, making it nearly impossible to track them down. As the authorities peeled back layer after layer, they found a terrifying conspiracy concealed within. It was a heartbreaking story of treachery, manipulation, and suffering. The kidnapper was revealed to be Connor's very own next-door neighbor, Joe. Though it was nearly impossible to believe, every piece of evidence led to him as the most likely culprit. His appearance of normality was a facade that hid a disturbed soul. The community would never be the same. The motive behind Joe's actions left everyone stunned. It appeared that he had been struggling with financial difficulties and had hatched a plan to kidnap the baby for ransom. Jane couldn't control her emotions. She was both angry and sad. She just wanted to hold her baby girl. The guilt had consumed Joe. The community struggled to comprehend how someone they had known could commit such a heinous act. Connor couldn't believe it. Joe had always been friendly, if a bit reserved. He had a family, including a young daughter. Connor wrestled with the idea that someone he had known for years could be connected to such a heinous act. He decided to discreetly gather more information about Joe. He spoke to other neighbors, hoping to learn something that might shed light on Joe's recent behavior. The more Connor investigated, the more he uncovered layers of darkness beneath the surface. Whispers circulated among the neighbors' stories of strained relationships and unusual behavior from Joe in recent months. Connor's determination to uncover the truth intensified, fueled by a need for justice and a desire to understand how a seemingly ordinary man could commit such an unforgivable act. If Milo had not alerted him to the baby in the trash can, who knew what could have happened if he didn't stumble upon her in time? Connor understood that people do stupid things when they are desperate, but why would Joe abandon the baby in a trash can of all places? Connor felt like he wanted answers. Connor knew that the police were talking to Joe at that very moment in his house. He felt the urge to go there himself. He had so many questions to ask Joe, but he was also fueled with anger and didn't know what he would do if he came face to face with him. He didn't want to end up in jail for what he might do. Many of the other neighbors stood outside of Joe's house, beckoning for the police to bring him out. Everyone was angry, and they wanted revenge. As soon as the police brought Joe out in handcuffs, the people started shouting profanities at him and asking him why he did it. Connor only looked at Joe in pity. As Joe was taken into custody and the legal process began, the neighborhood came together to support Jane in her time of need. The criminal acts served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life in the darkness that could lurk in unexpected places. It prompted conversations about the importance of community, vigilantism, and the need to address mental health issues that might lead to such horrific acts. Jane was eventually reunited with her baby, but Connor found himself forever changed. The memory of that fateful day haunted him, and he couldn't help but wonder if there was more he could have done to prevent it from happening. Milo, once an energetic and carefree companion, seemed to carry a solemn weight. He had become a hero in his own right, alerting Connor to the terrible truth that had been hidden just beyond their wall. In the aftermath of the traumatic events, the neighborhood worked together to heal. Support groups were formed to help both Jane and Connor cope with the emotional aftermath. The once ordinary street became a symbol of resilience and unity, as residents leaned on each other to navigate the difficult journey ahead. But were they safe, or was there still danger lurking? Connor and Milo's bond deepened through the ordeal, each serving as a source of strength for the other. Milo's unwavering loyalty and his ability to sense danger had saved them from a potentially dangerous situation. But Connor and the community had no idea that Joe was part of something even bigger. It seems that the police had only caught the small fry, and there was a bigger problem they had to deal with. As the investigation into Joe's motives and actions continued, the police soon realized that he was part of a larger network involved in criminal activities. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community once again, deepening their sense of unease. It turned out that Joe had been coerced into participating in the kidnapping by a dangerous criminal organization that had a stronghold in the city. This revelation left everyone stunned, as it seemed unthinkable that such a sinister presence could exist right under their noses. The police faced an uphill battle in dismantling the criminal network. The deeper they delved, the more they realized that this organization had tentacles reaching into various aspects of the city's underbelly. Connor felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that uncovering the truth about Joe's involvement was just the beginning. The safety of his community and the city as a whole was at stake, and he was determined to play his part in bringing these criminals to justice. As Connor dug deeper into the criminal organization's activities, he knew that he was venturing into dangerous territory. He had no experience in law enforcement or undercover work, but his determination to protect his community outweighed his fears. He began discreetly gathering information, attending local gatherings, and discreetly reaching out to individuals who might have insights into the organization's operations. He knew that every move he made could put himself and those he cared about in jeopardy. Connor's efforts did not go unnoticed. A few individuals who were also concerned about the criminal organization's influence reached out to him. Their collective skills ranged from hacking to investigation, and together they worked to gather evidence, expose corrupt officials who might be aiding the criminals, and find weak points in the organization's structure. As Connor and his allies delved deeper, they unearthed a web of corruption that extended far beyond what they had initially imagined. The criminal organization had infiltrated not only law enforcement, but also local businesses, city officials, and even the media. The scope of their influence was staggering, and Connor realized that taking them down would require more than just individual efforts. It would require a systemic change and collaboration from every corner of the city.